All right, Sasha, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah,
Pleasure to be here.
yeah. Last time you were here, we were talking a lot about Facebook ads, and actually, people loved that content that you shared. So, really
Yeah,
excited to be talking with you again. But this time, going more in depth on user generated content, or UGC as they call it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. UGC has been a very interesting phenomenon over the past like year and a half. Definitely has been all the rage. Calmed down a little bit, but still is the main driver for brands to really pump ads quickly, in a cheap manner and really scale those ads. At least that's what I've been saying, for the past year and a half.
Nice. Yeah, I know. And I know you've been behind the scenes on some doing some amazing things on the UGC front, on the paid ads front, as well. Actually, going and getting distribution for those UGC based ads. Just curious if you can, just talk a little bit about what you've been up to in the last, 2 years or so when it comes to all
Yeah.
this marketing stuff.
Right, right. So I got my start actually not so long ago. I'm not like an OG, in the game, but I went fast, so to say. So I got my first job at an agency called Volt, which was doing dark posting for one of the biggest brands of in the world, like Snow and Care Off, and big brands. So I kind of learned the ropes there, then just did some media buying here and there, and just picked up some skills and really learned from great people along the way. And then last year, I started really going deep into the creative rabbit hole because people, I mean, like kind of like the wind was starting to shift towards this direction as iOS 14 happened, but also, like people started to really start looking for solutions, right? And then it was clearer and clearer that A, creative was, the biggest needle mover at the time, which still is. And then B, that UGC was the best medium to really make ads and scale that way. Because and then I'll just continue after that. But essentially, like, why is UGC so powerful is that essentially your ads and your content has to be fitting as much as possible into the feed and into the customer experience, right? People want to see this content. And so essentially ads have to mirror your organic traffic and the organic thing and the organic trends that are happening on the platform as a whole. Otherwise, I mean, we'll get to that a bit later, but yeah, it's very important to make ads that fit towards like in this whole algorithm and whole feed and customer experience that people have. So yeah, so I dove into this subject. Uh, yeah, a good year ago, probably yeah, early 2020, maybe end of 2020, 2021, early 2022, and then really started going deep into that, into direct response. How we craft this UGC because the thing I think like the most important thing about ads is that I mean, like at the end of the day, it's very random. Like you can't really know, what's going to hit or what's not going to hit. You can have a thesis and like make ads that are going to follow this hypothesis and this thing that you think is going to work, but the most random thing will pick up. And so that's why I think like just making ads is not that difficult. Actually, it's not really difficult. What is difficult is being able to install a system that's going to be able to pump out, creatives whether it's UGC, whether it's VSLs, whether it's image ads, whatever, just ads and consistently so you can test, have hypothesis and learn and grow it like this. And so that's the whole point. That's what I've been working, developing last year. So I worked with some of the biggest brands in DTC. So brands like Nude, which is one of the leader in the hair removal space. We've done a lot of work for them. Primal Harvest, and a bunch of other very cool CPG supplement companies too, which it's very not rare where we find ads that can scale to 500,000, 600,000, 200,000, 300,000, and it's basically the whole premise and the whole goal when you start making creatives and you start creating a system that's going to be able to pump up because the more you make, the higher the chances are going to be to find what we call in the space a banger creative, right? Something that is going to be able to sustain 10, 15, and upwards of like multiple six figures and sometimes even seven figures. This has happened too. So that's something that we've been really working hard at in the past year. So I've been operating an agency called Creative Flywheel, which I recently left, unfortunately, to do other stuff, right? But I think it's very important to share this kind of knowledge about creatives, because that's in my opinion the most difficult part of a business, because essentially this is where you're competing with everyone, right? If like having an agency for like back end or something else is difficult by itself, like any business is difficult, but the thing is that you're not competing on cold traffic, right? And so when you can crack cold traffic and making ads for brands, this is where really things got to get exciting, because this is the most difficult part of any business, making sales and like getting attention for cheap enough so you can make margins, right? That's the whole thing. So yeah, I've been just like obsessed with that for the past year. All the different ways, all the different marketing techniques and approach, and try to really get all this knowledge and all this stuff about direct response and try to apply it to short form content, which has been challenging because I mean, like it's not that it is easy, but like when you have a long form sales letter, like you can easily apply all these principles and all these techniques about the response, because you have time, right? You have a lot of things that you can say. You can go again and again. You can, do a lot of stuff when you have long form copy. When it comes to short form, it's harder because you have to basically, stuck everything in a very short period of time, whether it's 30 seconds, a minute 30, right? This is where essentially we're battling with people for their attention. And this is where it's really difficult because like, I mean, like, there's a few approach. I think like also like the long form VSLs on Facebook work very well. I've seen that happen many times, right? But I think like for most brands that are not in the direct response space, in the direct like more like just DTC, maybe a bit more vanilla, it's difficult to make these kind of ads like 26 minutes, 40 minutes. It's less on brand, so to say, because that's a big reality still. It's most brands are still not really applying all these direct response principles. And I think like really where at least I think I have the edge is being able to make ads that are on brand, but also have the direct response element, which can like supercharge what they're currently doing without going too overboard when it comes to like claiming stuff, etc., right? So yeah, so that's what I've been doing for like the past year and a half, really, about really focusing on cracking this. And as I said, we've worked with over 60 brands. We've managed over like $3 to $4 million dollars a month in ad spend. Like the creatives that we were creating, we're spending that amount of money. And yeah, just a great experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think what's so cool about what you've been doing is how you've really been thinking in terms of systems first. So breaking it down. So it's not just, you being a brilliant marketer and seeing a specific situation, but actually extracting what your internal process is for coming up with the ideas for the ads, and then also sourcing the talent, and then fitting all these different pieces together so that you go from amazing ideas to finished ads and actually generating results for these brands who maybe are not as D2C heavy. They're maybe more brand focused, but you're actually injecting them with this direct response magic, really, and you've really boiled that down to a system. So I think that's amazing, honestly. And I mean, what would you say? UGC is everywhere, right? Like you said, it's the where ads are adopting the native format that we see on, let's say, vertical format video. So what do you see as some of the biggest mistakes that you see when you're out there scrolling through TikTok or YouTube Shorts, that mistakes that other brands are making where they're really not, they're failing to fully take advantage of the possibilities with good UGC for direct response?
I think like, the main one is like not really understanding their audience and playing the solution game. That's the main thing I think for most brands, including big brands as well. But since they're big brands, it's not that big of a deal because they already did a lot of work on their brands. But like for smaller brands, so there are essentially like two types of people. There and this is coming from Alan Sultanich by the way. Like if you want to check it out, like very very good guy, but essentially like people are in two different states at all time. They're either in a solution state or in a problem state, right? And so essentially most brands, what they're doing is that they're only competing for solution state because this is easier, right? It's kind of like the equivalent of like just competing for bottom of funnel people, right? And so essentially they're just making ads for people that are already aware, right? And the same thing as the 5 level awareness. They're already like on the stage and kind of like on the brink of buying. And because it's easier and it's easier to market to, right? When you just have to show your product to people who are already interested and already aware that they have a problem, typically the sales happen, right? The problem with this approach is that when you don't educate and when you compete with a very small percentage of the market, and you have basically like it's like 10% of the market with like 90% of the brands competing for this thing, right? So the competition is going to be very harsh, and you're going to exhaust your amount of people, the amount of people that you can reach and that you can sell to, because there's only so many people at the same time that recognize they had a problem and that are looking for a solution, right? And so I think that's the biggest trap, because and at least that's the biggest trap in terms of like scale, right? And I think that's what most people are looking for, right? The problem I see with a lot of people on Facebook and also on TikTok, but more on Facebook, is that we're going to make some ads, be profitable, and then when they try to scale, it's going to maybe be okay for a while, and then it's going to crash, right? It's very unstable. And I think, in my opinion, my thesis, and I have no way to see that besides my experience, and I've kind of like confirmed that multiple times, is that when you go a bit above, in the funnel, when you try to target people that might be not as aware as the people are, already ready to buy from you, is something that might have more longevity for this specific ad, right? And this is what you're looking. You're not looking to, have to consistently go hunt, right? You're looking to be basically a farmer and really like plant the seeds and grow it, right? And even if you're preparing a system for checking out these creatives, it's better to have this system in order. Like the goal of this system is really to find these ads that are going to scale and not have to have consistently like small ads that stay at the low level, but rather like a few ads that really go high, right? And I think I did some sort of metaphor in the podcast last time, like your ads are basically your employee, right? And the more consulting, the more spend you're giving them equals kind of like the consulting or the training that you would give to your employees, right? So would you rather have like 1,000 employees that are poorly trained with very low spend and very low consulting and training, or would you have maybe like 4 or 5 employees or like exceptionally at what they do, a lot of consulting, a lot of training, a lot of courses, all of this, which equals the spend that are going to carry basically your campaigns and then your company and your sales, right? So that's the whole premise of it. Um, but coming back to the point of the problem state and the solution state, is that the problem state really opens a whole new market, right? And then when you basically put people, like take people earlier in their journey and then really like kind of like hold their hand throughout like the whole customer journey, well, you're creating demand instead of capturing demand. And I think that's the biggest trap that most people and most brands are falling into, is that most of the brands that I see are playing Facebook almost as Google, right? Where they're only positioning themselves at the finish line and they're just, getting, kind of like the leftovers, where the brands that are really, doing good, at least in the beginning stage, are targeting people that might be a bit less aware and really like try, as I said, to hold their hands throughout the customer journey and create intent and create, I don't want to say, brand loyalty, because I think it's a very abstract concept, but at least, if you get educated by a certain brand and then you really go through the journey, understand where you have a problem, understand what's the solution, what's the best solution in the market, and then you really see that from one brand and one brand only, or at least what the catalyst of the journey was this specific brand, well, you're going to tend to go towards this brand and buy from this brand, right? So I think that's the biggest mistake, the overarching strategy. Besides that, I would say that not knowing your audience is a big one. Is really making ads that you think are good for you, or that you think is good, just a little bit of research, but without really understanding the limitation of your audience, who's your audience, what they want, what the outcomes that are they looking for, etc., etc. And this kind of ad is really like speaking to no one, essentially. So I see a lot of that, and I think those are the two biggest mistakes: not knowing your audience, not really talking to a specific market or side of the market. I think is a big thing too. Essentially, like what I really like doing with ads is understanding, as I said, the level of awareness, right? And then make multiple ads, based on these type of level of awareness, right? I don't think you should never do ads that are like kind of like more bottom funnel and like solution state. I think they have their place, right? But I think it's about making different ads for like different places of the customer journey, so you can really like hold the hand of everyone and like maximize on all fronts, right? So I think that's the biggest thing, in my opinion, is really understanding this spectrum of awareness and kind of like plugging the holes that you have in your marketing based off of that.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, so just getting tactically taking a step to how do you actually structure ads so that you're not just targeting, like you said, more bottom of the funnel people, but you're creating that demand by addressing the problems. I mean, given that you have typically shorter form ads going to some kind of modified product page, let's say, um, how are you
Right.
structuring these ads? How do you think about structuring these ads so that you're accomplishing that and not just going after that bloody ocean, so to speak, of the bottom of the funnel people?
Right. So typically, for example, the solution state, or like as you said, like the red ocean ads are going to be targeting and like having headlines and scripts that might be a bit more to the point and not really talking about the problem, about what are the consequences, the limitations that people are going through, but more really about the solutions and showing that the solution is better than the rest of the market, right? And so if you wanna really a bit more like through like for the blue ocean and like the problem state, is more about like education, really. Not education in a boring manner. I like to call that edutainment, right? So it's about finding ways to educate people on a problem while doing it, in an entertaining manner. Whether it's like having very visual stuff, B-rolls, etc. The one I really like doing is having some sort of like dialogue between, like having an actor that does a dialogue with like just like himself, and like maybe like dressed differently, etc., etc. But I think the biggest point is really to have these first like 15 to 20 seconds of the video, probably maybe less depending on how long the video is, but about kind of like really trying to make the effort and educate people about what they have as a problem, whether it's the headline, but I think or the problem, or the agitate piece. What we like to do really in the creative world is try to not think of the video as just a video, but a video is composed of like many different blocks and many different elements, right? And I think like the biggest needle mover when it comes to like trying to go for higher funnel people is focusing on these first three blocks that I call like hook, problem, and agitate, right? It's really about that, and not necessarily agitate, because I think people don't really want to feel shitty about their life. I think it's really about being aware of who this ad is going to target, right? Because you can basically make what you want. As we all know now, Facebook's targeting and the interests are pretty obsolete right now. So you're all doing all the targeting, with your video, and especially more with the first 3 seconds of the video, which is your hook and your headline, right? So I think like the biggest thing is about like knowing who you're targeting with a specific ad, and as I said, making different ads with different headlines and different hooks that are going to appeal to different people, and I think like what's really the most important thing is, for example, if you're selling a supplement for a specific disease, and people might not know that they have this disease, well, you have maybe a hook that is going to talk about a specific symptom, about like kind of like mirror what you're going through. So for example, I don't know, if they have brain fog and then your supplement is for XYZ, well, maybe you can say, and they don't know they have brain fog because they didn't go to the doctor, or they don't want to go to the doctor. Maybe you can say, the headline can go about speaking and showing someone that struggles, maybe focusing or getting things done or being present throughout the day, etc., etc. So and then you would of course like continue after the hook into the problem and the agitate and the product intro, etc., and the whole pitch basically. But the most important is these first few seconds to really like try to introduce this concept, and this problem that they might or might not know that they have, so you can then, as I said, take them through the next step, which is going to be first your pitch in this specific ad, and then other ads that might take them closer to the finish line. But I think like the biggest thing to answer your question, it might be just a long-winded answer, is really to try to educate them and as I said, go towards people that are not as aware as not most people, but the people that are already aware of their problem, the solution, and what's going on in the market. Right? It's more about like talking about the symptoms, talking about what they're going through, and not in a salesy manner. I think it's very important to treat these ads as you don't have to cram all your sales argument or all the problems in this specific ad. I think like the other ads can pick up these people to like a different moment in their journey, and it is going to do a better job. So I think it's really important to essentially like segment your funnel um, based on your creatives, right? So you're going to have ads that are going to only like target cold traffic, which is never really cold traffic. You don't follow, don't follow, and then treat it that way. Otherwise, it's a bit complicated to keep scaling, and unless you have a very high addressable market, which is rare, right? Even in the supplement space and even in the skincare space, I think it's kind of rare that you can only make powerful ads and then scale to millions of dollars if you're only DTC, of course.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, do you have any off the top of your head any examples of brands who you think do a really good job of really nailing that problem agitate in the early part of the video?
Yeah, so Nude is doing great about that. So that was a client of ours. Primal Harvest, Nullstein, A-Chip Organics, I think is a good one too.
Mhm.
Maybe A-Chip Organics might be a very good example because it's not necessarily about showing what the problem is and going for people that are not aware, but it's going for people that are not aware of a specific solution, right? So it's really about like targeting the funnel and in specific cases. Another example I like is Rise Superfood. I think they're doing great creatives. I also some of my friends, and I think like if you want the opposite example, that are bigger brands that don't need to go as much into like top of funnel and like going to the problem, etc., because they've already done so much advertising and spent so much on ads that they've already laid this groundwork on not really having to do as much top of funnel efforts. So you have, for example, have mud water, right? Mud water is like a mushroom coffee, kind of the same thing as rice coffee. But in my opinion, mud water goes more for like solution state and like really just showing like the value props and not going really about more of the problem. In my opinion, Magic Spoon is another one. I think is really showing what the product is. Essentially, not really too much like showing what the rest is and like what the problem is and like try to educate other people. I think they do it to a certain extent, but in my opinion, they do more of like the solution and like more, it's not even for them a red ocean because, as I say, they've done so much work on their brand and like invested so much in their brand that they don't need to do as much on their advertising. Same thing for Onyx, for example. Onyx is like one of the biggest supplement brand in the world, right? And they do most of the advertising that you can see, like just ads that feature Joe Rogan, right? And like this is great, but I don't think that educates a lot of people because they don't have to educate a lot of people. Like the education comes through organic, word of mouth, podcasts, all of this, right? And so I think it's also like one of the biggest mistake I think like people make is that they think that Facebook or TikTok has to be their only acquisition channel or YouTube or whatever. Like they treat this thing as their one and only, when in fact, like when building a brand, like there is 1,000 different ways to win, and it's not just about doing creatives or just doing Facebook or just doing TikTok, right? Like you have to consider all the different faces of your business in order to really grow big.
Yeah, it makes sense. I will definitely feature some of those ads in the follow-up emails off of this. So definitely take a look into our VidTao, just so everyone knows, VidTao, we're just about to launch VidTao 2.0.
Yeah, very
Massively,
excited about that.
yeah, we got a bunch more ads. We basically have, I don't know, 10x the amount of ads we had from before. So we'll take a
Nice.
look more closely at some of the brands you mentioned and see if we can pull out some insights, like you're saying. I'm just curious. You mentioned not knowing the audience is a big problem, and obviously not really focusing on that sort of higher funnel problem issue. So, how do you actually go about identifying the audience, understanding the audience? What's your approach like that on the research side? I'm just curious.
So on the research side, what I typically go through, and I think like the more the better. Like this is one of the most higher return investment tax that you can do for your business. No matter what stage you are, really, because I mean, like if you don't do research, you're going to run out of angles pretty quickly, right? And I think even if you can, probably scale your business to, multiple seven figures or eight figures off of the back of a couple of angles, I think it's always important to try new things and like really, find new ways to market your product, right? Because if you don't grow, you're kind of dying, right? And so my approach is really try to go in as much in depth as possible, and go through. So Reddit is a big one, right? Go through Reddit, like read comments, the horror stories, not the horror stories because I don't think that every single product has a horror story that they're solving, but just like the experience about a specific problem or a specific solution that they've been using, and really try to understand what they're going through. And then I think like the biggest thing is about finding two things. The first one is the commonality between people, right? What's the common factor between all the people that might buy for you, right? I think that's why so many people, when they go about crafting a customer avatar, really goes in depth about saying, you know, my customer is Sarah. She's 32 from Idaho. She has a husband and three kids, and they make $130,000 per year. Or they really go in depth. And I think I like this approach. I don't really do it, to be honest. I think it's better to just understand, what kind of like commonalities you have in your audience, like the people have between them. But also on top of that is about understanding the limitation. What's limiting them? And I think it's much more common to have limitation than it is to have commonality between people, right? What's the price point issue? What's the might be the objection? So the limitation about your product, maybe it's about, is it safe? Is it vegan? Is it going to have side effects? Is it going to do X, Y, Z? So it's really about understanding what they can't do, right? If it's going to take more time, also like all these things that they can't do, and like the no's that they're going to be able to give you when they scroll through your page, when they watch your ad, when they go through your email, whatever, right? It's also like it's the most important thing is the limitation, in my opinion, and like what can they say no to? What's the objections basically? So that's a very very big thing for me. That was a massive like paradigm shift when it comes to that. So yeah, so these two things, I think, like market research, like really understanding what they're going through, etc., etc., and then based off of that, try. And I think like that's like hypothesis that you can put. And if you want to go maybe a step further, is like having customer interviews, like really being on the phone with them, going on, like asking them question for a long time. I think that's like a very very high value task to do as well. And then based off of that, try to basically based off I think the response and the stuff that you pick out from Reddit, from like the other forums and the reviews and the comments and all of this, is like try to find, as I said, commonalities between, what's the problem that they have with your product, what do they like, etc., etc. Then based off of that, you can start, having an idea about how to craft your messaging and how to appeal to specific people, right? I think like also an important thing that a lot of people, especially in the supplement space, are overlooking is the unique mechanism of your product, right? Based on like the ingredients that you have, like you can find a bunch of different angles, right? Like it's not just one thing that is going to be working, because if you have a great product with great ingredients, the chances are that your product is going to solve a lot of different problems for a lot of different people that you might not be aware of, right? You might be just focusing on one thing that might be working or might not be working, but maybe another angle based on like these ingredients and like that what kind of like problem they solve together separately, what people have been using it for, might also be a massive unlock, right? So I think it's really about finding these different use of the product. How do they like it? What don't they like about it? What are the objections and all of this, and really try to go deep into that. But I think like really like what's most important is finding commonalities between them and the limitations.
Got it. So you got the research, right? You understand the audience. And let's just take a few steps forward. How are you going about actually delivering some kind of easy to follow instructions to your talent? So your user generated content talent. So how does that process work? Actually, let's take it one step further. So how are you actually, before you actually send instructions to people and you define all these things so that you're getting amazing content back, how do you actually go and source the talent that the creators, the user generated content people to actually create the raw footage that becomes these ads? How do you go about finding them, and just some thoughts on that?
Right. So I think like for a lot of brands, like sourcing talent might not be very, very difficult. I think it's really about like the directing part and like making them do what they want to do. But I think like the easiest place to do is really to go on Twitter and TikTok and message people, right? And based on like your demographic. I think you can probably do that with ChatGPT as well. You can add ChatGPT to give you a list of like, influencers or creators that might be a good fit for your product, which it is good and probably is going to save some time. For someone that might be a bit more serious, I think like the obvious response is hiring a talent manager that you can, maybe have someone oversee. That's what we have, and that's what I think most agencies have right now. That we essentially go maybe a bit above and beyond the typical UGC people, because so you have like two school of thoughts, right? You have, just like going with, normal UGC people that might just be a bit more organic and try to do that, let them do their thing, which might be good. I think is great, but at the same time, like it's less predictable, and it's one more wheel that you add to the system that might not be just like flowing well. Um, in my opinion, the better choice is obviously having something that you can systemize, and the thing that we were doing is so one thing about UGC and this whole phenomenon of making ads yourself and being a content creator is that is not disrupting, but it's changing a lot of things in the movie industry and in the TV industry, right? So you used to have people that wanted to break into TV, movies, Hollywood, whatever, right? And then it's very difficult. It's a very, very competitive market. Not everyone can do it. You typically have very, secondary roles if you have any. And then you have to work at a bar or a restaurant or, like maybe like a small job to make some money, to pay your bills, and then continue working on your actor career, right? And then the cool thing with UGC now is that you can hit up these people that have experience, in training for like theater, TV, movies, et cetera. And then you can offer them, to basically get a free product, get, a couple $100 for a few hours of their time. And then, that's cool for them because, when you're someone that, gets, not really good pay from like acting, you have to go there, you're not really treated well, you can have to wait, etc., etc. So when you go to these people and you say, "Hey, I'm going to ship the product to you," you're just going to have to whip out your phone, shoot some content, and then you get paid for that. That's a very good thing. So what we were doing is we were either outreaching to people on Facebook groups. So you have, by state, by cities, you have actor for New York or actor for, California or Las Vegas, like whatever, right? So you have a lot of these Facebook groups that have a lot of people just like looking for gigs, looking for ways to make money. And then when you post on that, you can just like basically have like some sort of like type form or like questionnaire that they can go through and give their information about like what's their eye color, what's their hair color, what's their height, what's their body type, maybe like some more information about them if they have any experience. I don't think that's super super relevant, the experience, that we typically don't do it. I think like really what's the most important is asking them to follow a specific guideline about making a video, because that will help you very, very quickly kind of like weed out the bad candidates because they won't put any effort into it. They would just like either upload a photo or a video, a shitty video. And then when you have, people that really take, some time and like shoot you a video that might be like 20, 30 second, about like their iPhone or like microphone or whatever. And then you can see like how they act, what they do, the lighting, and if they know about content, well, you can very quickly like, just say, okay, well, this one, yes, this one, no, etc., etc. So that's one way. And then the even easier way is going into casting platforms, right? So kind of like the same thing as Facebook groups, the same thing, but it's a bit more, professional, if I want to say. And then you just create an account there. It's very used. I think that a lot of people now are doing that. Just have to post a job post, but basically the same thing as Upwork for freelancers or Fiverr. It's just for actors, right? So you just like specify what's your product, what you want to do, what's the pay, and then you're gonna have a bunch of like, and also like who you want to shoot the product. If you want maybe like a mom, if you want another person, if you want, I don't know, an Asian person, a black person, someone that is blonde, someone that is, ginger, whatever. You can just specify that, and then you'll have a lot of people applying to your job. And based off of that, you can either ask them to, send you more videos or like more example of work, or just go with someone, take their email address, their the address, send the product, and then that's it. So that's how we go about, sourcing actors. I don't think that's really like the most difficult part because there's a lot of people now in this economy that just like live off content, right? That's their job and that's what they want to do. What they enjoy. And actually, a lot of people are making good money from that, like very, very good money. So the cool thing is that there's a lot of supply. You just basically need to have a constant, like it's a constant effort of like getting more people into your Rolodex and like, just filtering them, working with them, trying them out, et cetera, until you have, a couple hundred actors that you can just hit up and then just like send the products, work with them on a monthly basis. And then, you just have people that are going to make you a lot of videos. And that's really how you systemize, I think.
Nice. Yeah, that's fantastic. And just off the top of your head, what are some of the casting platforms that you found to be easy to
So
work with?
in the US, the biggest one is going to be Backstage,
Mhm.
backstage.com. In the UK, you have Mendy.com, which is a good one as well. And I mean, like, if you live in France, you have casting, casting that, like, yeah, casting that FR, something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, few in Germany. My experience, however, has been that outside of like English speaking countries, um, these platform of acting are less exposed to UGC and online content and advertising, and they're
Mhm.
still way more into like traditional filming and all of this. Maybe because also it might be paid better because the competition might be a bit less tough. I don't really know, to be honest. I just know that in my experience, like we've had a lot of struggle with these platforms. So I think yeah. Also, something just to note, for people watching this that have like a product that might be for a specific audience that might not be as easy to get, is try to go with your customer base and try to work with some of them because, for example, we've had the case with a couple of products that we had to advertise in Germany, and then one of it was like for like 60-plus-year-old, which was almost impossible to source. We find maybe like one or two people, one or two
Mhm.
women that were willing to do it, but it's going to be very expensive. It's going to be very difficult. You're going to have a lot of reshoots. So the easier pick, like what really UGC works and the system works for the best is when you can find actresses that are going to deliver good content. And typically it's going to be around like sub 35-year-old, sub 40-year-old, I think is the sweet spot. You can definitely, go higher. We've had, like skincare creams for neck with like older people that we've been able to, source a lot of actresses from that are a bit older, but it's going to be definitely, more challenging.
Got it. So you got the cast in place, right? You got the people you've identified. Now, how do you actually take those ideas you generated earlier on, understanding the audience, understanding the problems, being more problem focused? How do you actually create instructions so that you send off the product, you send off these instructions, and then you get back very close to finished UGC from these creators?
So yeah, so you have like first of all, once you have your angle and the concept that you're going to go after, you're gonna have to write your script, right? Because if you want to really systemize a thing, like you can't really let the creators like do what they want. You need to be having like boundaries and like get them to do what you want. I won't go too much into detail about script because that's the full thing. But basically, what we try to do, and I think that's the best approach, is really try to implement as much as possible and like try to behave almost like as a studio that produces a movie, right? So movies essentially are not built like the first scene and the second scene and the second and the third scene, like it's all over the place. But essentially, it's not just like 2 hours of movie, right? You're gonna have a lot of like different scenes, and then each scene is going to have like different takes and different ways to do it, and like different alternatives, etc., etc. So essentially, like a movie is built of like has building blocks, and an ad should be done the same, right? So you can have, as I said earlier, you're gonna have like the different elements, the different blocks of your ad. There's going to be the hook, the problem, the agitate if you want to have it, the maybe like social proof, the other maybe like more traditional UGC where people just give their honest review. You're gonna have the product intro, the benefits, the features, the outcomes, the guarantees, the call to action, a bunch of other stuff, maybe like the summary of the problem, the summary of the solution. Like you're gonna have like different blocks. And I think like I definitely have a lot of these blocks. I think it's something that you can have to discover, further when you go like just like different ways to think about it. And then you have like different ways to use these blocks, right? For example, let's take the, like the product intro block, right? So the way that someone could discover a product, it can be like in a lot of different ways. Like someone could talk to you about it. Someone like could see an ad, you could do research, you can get to a doctor, you can get to your mom, like whatever, right? You have different ways. And so basically it's just like about giving that element and that block a different spin without really changing the storyline of your ad, right? And you just can change like just like take, can take like a different take on it and just like plug it in, and then change the thing. Like kind of the same thing for like a problem if you want to maybe make it more impacting, really, or more maybe emphasize something that might be a bit bigger, maybe about like problems that might be about like more like superstructures and like more like bigger things that big pharma, big food, stuff like that. Um, that might not be impacting you right away. But so that's the first step, really. But like you're kind of like segmenting your ad and not really thinking about an ad as an ad, but like a lot of like different blocks that you can turn around and like make like different version of these different blocks. So that's the first step. And I think after that, the important part is about having a very solid storyboard, right? So in movies, what they do is once they have the script, before they do anything, they have someone basically storyboarding each scene, right? So they draw out each scene, so the people that are going to play it out have a visual reference. Obviously, I mean, like you can do it now with AI. You can, basically put your script and it's going to draw like a very good, good scene. I think that's an option. The easiest and the easier choice, in my opinion, is just to have basically a description of your scene, what you're going to do, alongside a visual reference. So, for example, if you want the actor to just like shoot like just like face camera in this angle or in this angle, or to be seated into a chair, or if you want them to be standing, or if you want them to do something specific, maybe you can record it quickly and have it as a GIF. That's what we've been doing. So just have like different what we call like just like shot types. It's kind of like that, shot types, and give them as much details as possible, because this storyboard, this document that you can do on Notion, that you can do on Google Doc, whatever, right? It's just going to be about like different elements. The more information, the better, because you're going to have a smaller margin for error if people really understand what you want and understand your vision. Because um, the whole goal about this system is pushing volume, and you won't be able to get on a call with each talent to basically be the director on remote. The other option, if you have a studio, is to get the talent either to their home or to rent something, or to have a studio. This is even better, right? You'll have better quality. But I think remote works well, and I think that's what most people are doing right now, and that's the easiest choice. So that's one. So you're gonna have basically the amount of clips. So clip number one, clip number two, clip number three. You're gonna have the shot type, in the sense that you're gonna have either a roll or a B roll. And so a roll, oops, I raised my hand. A roll is going to be basically just like someone talking, a talking head, and then the B roll is going to be someone essentially just like doing some stuff and like kind of like illustrating the point visually that you're trying to make when you in the script, right? So for example, if you have an ad, I don't know, saying I was doing red light therapy, well, it's good to have someone showing themselves doing red light therapy, because it's really like anchoring the thing that you're trying to, like the point that you're trying to make, right? So yeah, so you have shot type, shot number, the script, the action, basically, and then you have a last column, ideally for your video editors for post production, to leave some notes, some guidance, some direction about how you want the clip. If you want a specific maybe like rhythm change, or like effect or something like that. So it's really a complete doc that is going to be involving either a creative strategist or a copywriter, the actor, yourself, and then your post-production team that is going to be really like taking the script, taking the footage, just like taking the clip number, putting it all together, and then yeah, just like making the ad come to life.
Amazing. I mean, so basically we walk through the individual elements of how to really ideate and then actually create these amazing UGC ads that, you can, like you said, can scale to 100,000 a day, or sorry, 100,000, total spend for the ad on up, have 500,000, let's say, all that, which is fantastic, right? Finding some, like you said, banger creatives that we can really
Right.
scale the cold traffic with. So that's insane. I know we'll respect your time here. Just in sending out the emails to our list on just questions, a lot of people really wanted to be able to ask questions live, which is great. So I know we talked about the elements of how to do all this today, but like you and I discussed, it's really amazing to see all this come together in a complete system and understanding how to actually make a direct response user generated content factory like you've done again and again for all these brands. So just putting it out there. So next week, next Thursday, we're going to have an actual live call, Sacha, where
Oh,
we're going to go into a lot of detail on the actual, not only these individual elements, but also how to put it all together in a system so that it's a real asset for your business. So anyone listening to the call right now, it's going to be at vidtao.com/UGC-factory. That's where you can go and sign up for the live training. And Sasha is going to be on the call answering questions. And we're going to be going into a lot of detail on the, how to actually build a UGC direct response factory.
yeah.
So just wanted to put that out there. Um, but yeah, I mean, amazing stuff, Sasha, honestly. There's so much opportunity there. And I love how you've tapped into it, not only on the real sort of theoretical advertising side in terms of coming up with ideas and really understanding the audience, and then also how you've been able to apply it so specifically to doing this remote production working with UGC people, and then obviously taking that and scaling it on Meta, on other ad platforms, etc. So yeah, I think it's unbelievable the array of experience that you have here. So super excited to continue our conversation next week and get our audience actually involved live, and
Yeah,
and,
that'd be
and I
great.
think it's going to be a lot of fun. So super excited. Anything else that you want to share with people while we're on the call?
Not necessarily like we'll be talking about whatever, like whatever question arises. I think I'll have more things that come to mind, after these questions. I think we can also talk about iteration and how to scale and maybe a bit go deeper about, how to actually like the strategies, how to test. I have a bunch of other strategies that might even come before that, before any production for videos that might be a bit more, a bit more advanced. So yeah, so like really looking forward to share that, to talk about that, and to answer any questions. I think like in itself, the system is not really that complicated. It's just that in my experience is the most, versatile and like has the most moving pieces in that I've ever seen in the agency space, at least, but rightfully so because like you're solving one of the biggest problem and one of the biggest bottleneck of the business. So yeah, very excited to talk about this.
Awesome. And then just so people can get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you personally? Twitter, email?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm not super active on social media to be honest. You can find me on Twitter. So it's gonna be Sacha HBD, right? And then yeah, just enter the DMs there. I tweet a little bit here and there, but yeah, I'm not really a big social media person. But I'm definitely on Twitter. Yeah.
Awesome. Sasha, thank you so much. Really looking forward to our next chat. And
Me
yeah,
too.
thank you for being a guest on our show and sharing
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Appreciate
super
it.
excited, man.
Sweet.
See ya.